In order to complete the project we have planned, you will need the following. 1 inch by 6 inch by 48 inch board for the front, sides, back, and floor panels. 1 inch by 8 inch by 10.5 inch board for the roof panel. 2 inch galvanized finishing nails, 1 5/8 inch galvanized deck screws, a 3/4 inch by 96 inch length of aluminum conduit, and 2 conduit straps. There are really only 2 tools that are needed to make this Bluebird house. You will need a saw of some type to make the cuts needed to shape the house panels, and a drill to bore the holes for the screws. A drill can also be used to drive the screws that will fasten the house panels together. There are a number of different saws you can use to make the cuts needed. The type of saw you use depends on what's available to you and your comfort in using it. It could be a miter saw, or table saw, or circular saw, or hand saw, and a power drill. The first step in this project is to lay out or to mark your cuts on the board that will be used for the front, back, sides, and floor of your Bluebird house. The stock you use needs only to be 48 inches in length, 5.5 inches wide, and 3/4 inch thick for the front, back, and sides. So, if you go to a local lumber yard, you will probably wind up buying a full 1 inch by 6 inch by 8 foot board because it is unlikely that a 4 foot length would be available. The first thing that you will be laying out is the front of the Bluebird house. The front panel of the house is 9.5 inches long, and the width will be that of the board itself. In the same section, you will also bore a 1.5 inch entrance hole. It's recommended that you angle your bit upward as you bore the hole. This can help deflect moisture entering the box. The best type of drill bit to use is probably a spade bit, but a Forstner bit is also a good choice. The entrance hole should be centered in the width of your board and 1 1/2 inches from the top. If you are concerned about tear out, meaning chips of wood that break off unintentionally, you should consider using a piece of sacrificial scrap wood, placing it under the front panel. When you use this technique, you are more able to get a cleaner result with less tear out by drilling through the front panel and into your sacrificial scrap piece. Just below where the entrance hole is to be, you'll notice that there are horizontal marks across the width. These are very shallow cuts, probably best made with a handsaw. If you have skill in their use, a table saw could be used as an alternative. These cuts are to be approximately 1/8 inch deep and should be made on both sides of the front panel. These actually provide a foothold for arriving and departing bluebirds. As a note to this detail, our information has it that a perch of any sort should not be considered for this dwelling because, quite simply, a perch is not needed for bluebirds. Next, you'll mark your cuts for the sides. Notice that there is a bevel to the top edge of both sides. This will provide a pitch to the house roof for rain runoff. To achieve this pitch, simply mark off a 10 1/4 inch length to the rear portion of both sides and a 9 1/4 inch length to the front portion of both sides. Use a straight edge to mark the cut and use a saw to remove the material necessary. This will yield a pitch of approximately 12 degrees. Next, you'll be marking and cutting for the rear panel and the floor. The rear panel should be marked for a length cut of 13 5/8 inches, and the floor marked for a 5.5 inch length and a 3 5/8 inch width. Please note that the floor will be inserted in the cavity made by the front, back, and sides, and will also be recessed about 1/4 inch to help with ventilation. Also, please notice that each corner of the floor has a small miter of about 1/2 inch in length. This is to provide drainage for the house. Finally, it is now time to prepare the roof panel for the Bluebird house. Our plans call for the roof panel to have a length of about 10 1/2 inches and enough of a width to provide some overhang on the sides. The next step is to join the pieces you have prepared. We'll start with attaching the front panel to the right side panel. You'll notice that the front panel butts up against the front edges of both sides. Do the same with the rear panel and the right side panel. Next, position the left side panel as you had the right and prepare to join it with the front and the back. As an option, rather than making a permanent attachment with finishing nails on the left panel, you might consider using only 2 galvanized deck screws instead, positioning them near the top and directly opposite each other, creating a hinge-like operation that can be utilized for observation and maintenance to the box's interior. As a means of providing a kind of latch for your Bluebird house, it's suggested that a hole be drilled at a slight downward angle to the front and the side, making it large enough to accept the nail of your choice, to be easily inserted and removed to be used as a means of securing the door. The final step is to join the roof to the front, back, and sides and insert the floor of your house. Remember, the floor is to be recessed approximately 1/4 inch to help with the ventilation of your new Bluebird house. Use galvanized finishing nails or exterior grade screws and drive them through the front and the rear panels through to the floor to attach it. The roof should be placed flush with the rear panel and have equally spaced overhangs on the sides, with the front overhang providing protection to the entrance. And with that, you are now ready to locate and mount your new Bluebird house.